right. Well, we have a few people still coming in, but I think we can go ahead and get started. Nathan, what do you think?
That sounds great, Alicia. Sounds good. All right. Well, welcome to the year-long journey on Cox Campus. We're with the Rollins Center for Language and Literacy and Cox Campus Online Campus. We are so grateful to have you all here today. And today we're going to be getting into the START strategy and talking about anchor books. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right. So preschool and pre-K age groups. This is what our focus is today in this meeting, reading stories with children and how to read with children and use books to plan your day.
All right. So hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining. My name is Alicia Grace, and I am a Birth to Five facilitator with the Rollins Center for Language and Literacy. And so I have been with Rollins for 6 years. No, I take that back. I have been in education for 6 years. I love that we get to focus on language and literacy all day. And I'm such a big fan of reading and writing and language. And so I'm definitely happy to be here. A fun fact about me is I absolutely love Disney World. I've been going ever since I was 3 years old, like annually. And I still love it to this day. So.
Thanks, Alicia. My name is Nathan Thompson. I am also a Birth to Five facilitator. I work with Alicia, and I've been in education for 2 years. I really love that in my position as a facilitator, I get to learn alongside the coaches, teachers, and the children. So really just learning alongside others is a passion of mine, and I love it. And I like to swing dance. That's just a fun little fact about me. It's something that I'm a little out of practice in, but I've always loved swing dancing. So.
All right. So we've done this a little bit as you were coming in, but if you have not done so already, we want to get to know who you are. And so definitely feel free to drop the state that you live in. And then for those people that have already done that, I want you to take a moment and drop in the chat. How confident do you feel in your current knowledge and practice around books, around the START strategy, if you've already watched the Transforming Storytime course, around extension activities, or anything related to the books? So I want you to just drop in the chat, how confident do you feel about some of those practices? All right, somebody from Beham, I love it. Birmingham, Marietta, Georgia. A work in progress, definitely. I understand that. Feels pretty confident, fairly confident, but wanting to learn more. Yes, always a learner. Feeling somewhat confident, new to the field. Well, welcome. I hope we can definitely give you some information that can help in your current role, definitely. All right. Well, while people are still dropping how confident they're feeling around that, we'll go to the next slide. I want to learn more. Somewhat confident. Okay. And so the Cox Campus Way. So these are some of our core values that we're going to uplift today in this presentation. When thinking about our core values, we want our work to be rewarding, empowering, connecting, safe, and essential. So those are just some of our core values. Also, for those people that aren't familiar, this is, we are partnered with our online Cox Campus. And so there you will be able to, you'll be met with a plethora of resources around information for educators, families, healthcare professionals. There's courses on there, there's resources, there's a discussion board where you can engage in the community discussion with other people. There's a blog, there's everything there. So definitely visit www.coxcampus.org to learn more information. And this recording will also be there as well. New to Cox Campus. If you are new to Cox Campus, this is just a friendly reminder that Cox Campus is a completely free resource. So just take a few minutes, log on Cox Campus from your desktop or from your phone, and just answer a few questions. And literally you can be set up with a free membership in less than a minute. Like, it's that simple. And then again, once you log on, you'll have access to all of our online resources. And I definitely think that'll be something that you will find worthwhile.
All right, so as we get into the learning today, we need to look at our learning objectives. So first things, we're going to learn how to use an anchor book, and we'll talk a little bit about what an anchor book is if you haven't heard that term, to implement the START practice in the classroom. And we'll go into what the STAR and T mean and ways to implement that. We will learn how to embed vocabulary from the anchor book throughout all parts of the day, different activities throughout the classroom. We'll learn how to create extension activities to help support the children's learning around the anchor book. So using it throughout the day and having those activities. All right, before we get started, let's reflect. In what ways are you currently utilizing books in the classroom throughout the day? What are your current practices? So reflecting on what you're doing currently. How do you use books throughout the day in your classroom? What parts of the day? What kinds of things do you do with books? You can put that in the chat, or you can unmute and let us know. Please feel free to unmute if anybody would like to share. I see mainly using books during circle time. Okay, yeah, that's a great time to use books so everyone gets to hear the books.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
Well, because I'm kind of like an online teacher, so it's kind of different. So what I do is I try to plan like what books I'm going to read, and then kind of send like a small kit out, or do like a digital kit for them to like have.
Great. So they have, like, you're sending the materials to their home so that they have the materials there to go along with the book.
Right.
Great. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Really helpful. I see story time, small group, center time, outside time. Yes, transitions. Okay, great. Singing and acting out the characters, introducing new science or social studies themes needed, the vocabulary, planning activities around the books, having the books in different centers. These are all great. Thank you so much for sharing out. Expanding the language and vocabulary and the knowledge around that. So really just different ways that you all are using the books. Thank you for sharing that. We'll go on to the next slide. All right, so this shows the elements of an ecosystem, all the parts that affect the child's learning. And so we have 9 elements on Cox Campus. We have 9 elements of an ecosystem. The one that we're going to focus on today has the big star around it, and that is integrated planning and teaching around an anchor book. So we want to really get into what that takes and give you all some tools to take with you to really integrate that planning and teaching around that focus anchor book. All right, so this kind of breaks it down a little more. These are ways that we want to be established in this area. And one thing we want to point out is so that our element for integrating planning and teaching around an anchor book really depends on those multiple and varied opportunities to learn the concepts and vocabulary that are related. And so consistently planning and presenting those throughout the day. And then in addition to the reading aloud the books, like reading in circle time or reading in smaller groups, having those extension activities consistently implemented throughout the day, and then having that physical environment reflecting the theme of the anchor book. So having artwork, props, materials, that props and dramatic play. So all the different things that you do in the environment to set that up. All right, so this is our expected child outcomes. And the expected child outcomes are used to plan and set goals on ways that we want the children to learn throughout the year in our classroom. And so we can come back to these to monitor their progress and see where they are. And we've circled the preschool pre-K area. And if you look to the left, you see that this is the section on comprehension and interpretation. So I'm on my way to reading. I can connect words, stories, and experiences. And then it breaks down the age groups and where you are, your goal for the children for that year. So those expected child outcomes. And at the top, what's really helpful about this resource is that it shows you the courses that are aligned with it. So for your age groups, Transforming Storytime is a big one. And then Building World Knowledge around a different type of informational books for real-time reads, which is also available. That information is on Cox Campus as well. And the link is in the chat.
All right. So first, what is an anchor book? Okay, so an anchor book is a theme-related book. So I know at a lot of our centers and sites, we have themes. And so these books are definitely related to the themes of the month. It is definitely a component of your lesson plan. So not just one singular book that you have on your shelf, but you're actually embedding that book into your lesson plan and throughout your week. It's meant to be read multiple times, and we're going to get into the why behind that in a moment. It is a sophisticated storybook. And so what we mean by that is it has events, it has characters who have feelings and thoughts, and then it has really rich vocabulary. And then it also includes concepts and vocabulary that you can use throughout the day. So not just reading it for that moment, but a book that we can transform into other areas of our day as well. So what are the benefits of multiple reads? So when you're thinking about a multiple read, you want to read a book at least 3 times to your child. So that helps to build language and vocabulary. So definitely you'll hear us say a lot about tier 2 words or like sophisticated words. So it'll definitely help to build that language. It would allow you to get engaged in meaningful conversations. So again, we're having those rich, nurturing conversations. It allows for critical thinking. And then also it creates powerful and determined learners and problem solvers. So we're using that book to help us solve problems within, our day-to-day. And so definitely there is some great benefits to reading one book multiple times. And so we're going to spend some time today really breaking down our START practice. And so START is an acronym. It stands for S, state. That is where you are going to state the title and the author and the purpose of the read. T, teach. That's when you're going to use those think alouds. And we're going to pat the vocabulary. We're going to learn a little bit about that later. A, ask. So we're going to ask those open-ended questions, those why questions. R, respond. And so we're going to respond using complex sentences, grammar, and rich vocab. And then tie for T is you're going to summarize that main idea and we're going to practice transitioning to the next activity. But also I want you to take note that again, at the top, you see that first, second, and third read is definitely highlighted. So in your first read, you want to make sure you're pushing in different events that happen within the book. For your second read, you're going to push in the character's thoughts and feelings. And then during that third read, that's when your children are able to kind of retell that book. You get to pull out events, thoughts, feelings, vocab, and really hear how much the child has learned throughout that week. Okay, so we're going to first start off with state. So I want you to listen to this teacher as she states the purpose of the read. And so I want you to think about how she introduces, and I want you to take note of some things, and we'll talk about that afterwards.
Today, we are going to read a new book, and the title of this book is Owl Babies. And the author, the person who wrote the book, is named Martin Waddell. And look at these baby owls. Do you know sometimes their mother has to leave them to go get their food? And one night, their mother left them and she disappeared. And I am wondering what happened when she left. I wonder where she went. I wonder what happened to her. And I wonder what happened to the baby owls. I wonder what happens to them when she has to leave them sometimes. Let's read and find out. Yes.
All right. So feel free to drop it in the chat or come off mute, but I want you to just tell me some things you noticed that the teacher did while she stated. So while she introduced the book, I want you to tell me some things that you noticed. How did the kids, how do they interact with that? We'll love to hear your thoughts. She gives good background, but info before reading, absolutely. So she's already pushing in good information. The children are completely engaged, yes. Modeling thoughts. She uses the terms title and author. I noticed the wording choice, yes. So definitely, these are great. These are great. And so definitely recognize that she didn't spend time, saying this is the front of the book, this is the back of the book, this is the sign of the book. That's not what she did. She really used that time to push in some good vocabulary. She said the word disappeared, which is going to come up again in that book. She talked about the character's feelings. She said, let's read and find out. So she really set the tone or set the purpose of the read. And so these are all great things that y'all are putting in the chat. Definitely. So thank you so much. Yeah, she provided great background. Absolutely. And you see by just doing that 1 minute introduction, the kids are ready to listen. They're really tuned in to the read. And so it definitely creates for a good reading environment as well. Yep. Definitely the teacher left the children thinking about what happened. Thinking the children are starting to think about the question she's asking. Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome.
All right. So the T is for teach. And when we teach the book, one of our practices that we use is called the PAT practice. And we're going to pat the vocabulary. And that stands for point, act, and tell. So when we point, we're pointing to illustrations in the book that match the vocabulary that we're reading. So we're finding that picture and pointing to it. And when we act out, we might act out something like wee, and we act out the word, act out the action as we read that part of the book, read that vocabulary. So it might say stomping, and you stomp your foot and you get the children involved with that. Or are you stomping your feet? We're stomping, just like the character in the book. And then telling is choosing words that we're going to focus on to give some child-friendly definitions, giving the meaning behind the word so that they understand what that word is, and having a child-friendly definition, words to support that word. All right, so now I'm going to give you all a chance to look at this book. This is Harry the Dirty Dog. Take a look at this book, and as I read it, think about what words you would point to, act out, or tell. Which words would you point to the picture? Which words would you want to act out as you're reading it? And which ones would you want to give a child-friendly definition? And let us know in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. It says, he'd found the scrubbing brush, and carrying it in his mouth, he ran into the house. Up the stairs he dashed, with the family following close behind. Oh, someone put dash. Okay. Yeah, we could probably tell that word and act it out. Act out scrubbing. He dashed, ran really fast up the stairs. Dog and dirty, like pointing to the dog. Telling about dirty. Let's see. How the little boy looked. He looked surprised. Okay, so talking about the looks on the face, pointing out the brush. Yeah, these are great. Awesome. Thank you all for sharing that. All right, we'll go to the next slide.
Okay, so now we're going to spend a little time talking about the A and the R, so the ask and respond. And so for this, I need some volunteers. I need one volunteer for my first segment, my first interview question set of questions, and then I need another volunteer for my second interview set of questions. So if you can raise your hand or come off mute if you want to participate, I need someone for interview A. And it's harmless, I promise. Easy questions. Yes, Miss King, come on off mute.
Okay, a little nervous.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so how many siblings do you have?
4.
Okay. What letter does the word teacher start with?
T.
What color is a flamingo?
Pink.
Thank you. See? Simple. Now, thank you, Ms. King. Now I need someone to participate in interview B. So I need another participant.
I saw a hand. I think Ms. Cox had her hand up.
I'm here.
Okay, Ms. Cox, you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, so my first question is, tell me about your family. Give me a little information about your family.
My family are originally from New Mexico, and I have both of my parents, my mom and dad, my sister, and I have one nephew and 2 nieces. So we have a small family.
Wow. When did y'all move from New Mexico?
Actually, my family are still in New Mexico. I'm here in Georgia by myself, so I have no family here in Georgia.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Do you visit them often?
I do. It's a whole big different environment. So here we have a lot of trees, and there it's all canyons and desert.
Oh, wow. Wow. So I bet that, it's a different weather environment than what we're experiencing in Atlanta. We know sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold, right?
Yes. There you don't have to worry about allergies except if you go into the mountains.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I know here we have to worry about allergies every time the season change. And I know that can be very frustrating.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cox, for engaging in my conversation today.
You're welcome.
Okay, guys. So thank you to Ms. King and Ms. Cox. But I want to hear from you all now. What are some things that you noticed about interview A versus interview B? And then I want you to also think about the responses. How are they different?
Interview B was more engaging. Like the question was more engaging. Instead of like asking like a specific question, a yes or no question, you asked, how was the family versus how many siblings do you have?
Yes, absolutely. You hit it right on the head. And I feel like everybody in the chat is saying the same thing. First interview, the questions were closed. And what that means is I asked yes or no questions. From that, you can't get much information other than yes or no. But in interview B, I asked an open-ended question, meaning that gave Ms. Cox an opportunity to tune into her own life and to share her ideas, her thoughts, her feelings. We were able to go back and forth. We were able to engage in a good conversation. I was able to hear her thinking. And so this is what I want you to take heed to when you're reading and responding, when you're asking questions and responding to children during the book reads. So when you're asking that important why question at the end of the story, yes, at the end of the story, not in the middle, but at the end of the story, I want you to see how the children interact. Because the question is an open-ended question, the children are going to go on and on, which we want them to do. We want to hear them. We want to hear their thoughts and their feelings, and it'll give opportunity for other children to engage in that conversation as well. And you'll just see how the kids are learning from each other and how they're responding to one another. And you'll hear that good, fruitful conversation, as opposed to just saying, was the character sad? Yes. There's not much you can really get from that versus, asking an open-ended question where you are really tuning into the why of the book. So thank you all for participating in that. Hopefully that helps you kind of understand the importance between asking a why question versus just asking a closed, straightforward question.
All right, now we're going to talk about the T. So tying the story together involves going back and summarizing the story, but it also involves going on to the next activity, building extension activities, really making that connection for the children. So I want you to think about this. This is a book, Owl Babies. If you've heard of it, you'll know more about it. But if not, here are some focused vocabulary words from the story: dependent, familiar, brave, relieved. Another one is nocturnal that's in there. So thinking of those vocabulary in this book, how can you use these words throughout the day? So if you could just put in the chat some ideas of how you can bring these words to life and bring connection throughout the day in your classroom from this book. So you've read the book, you have these words. How can you bring that to life in your classroom? You can unmute or put it in the chat. All right. I'm going to go on to the next slide because we're going to get into a little more depth about different ways. Okay, you can say you are brave today by giving a student a compliment, come up with activities. Okay, you guys are one step ahead of me. So this is called a bubble map. And what you see here is found on Cox Campus. And I see someone put word wall. That's one way to do it. So we have this on Cox Campus for you, and it has a way to organize and plan for those activities in those parts of the day. So it has the vocabulary words on here. It has the focus book in the middle, and then you can put the different sections that you're going to focus on. So for example, dramatic play, you can place a pretend like tree with a little cavity and small plastic or paper or clay owls, basically a little play area so the owls can go in their home. Also for morning meeting, having conversations with the children. How do you feel when your mom leaves you? That was a concept, a part of the story. Outdoor play, hiding a plastic or paper cutout of a mouse on the playground. So you have a little game and they're the owls and they go search them out. Or even having, for science, reading fiction books about nocturnal animals and bringing in those factual books. So keeping in mind these different activities, also want to point out that the word bank over here gives you some ideas for parts of the day. So it's not just centers and it's not just specific activities, but it can be like different parts throughout the day as far as your environment, just setting up the environment, or transitions is mentioned. And then there's a space to put others. So you could just put throughout the day, we're going to have conversations, planning to have conversations during meal times, during times that they're transitioning to go from one area to the other. Music and movement is on here. So we're going to go to the next slide. I'm going to give you a scenario and ask you about a way to do this. So here's an extension activity scenario. All right, this week, you're reading the story Owl Babies to your preschool class. You want to plan an extension activity for the art center that ties to the theme and the vocabulary in the anchor book. So what is a art focused activity that you can do with your children related to the story? Does anyone want to unmute and give an example or put it in the chat? You can also put it in the chat. Ways that you incorporate art related to the theme of the story, the concepts, the vocabulary in Owl Babies. All right, I see drawing a tree. We're talking about where owls live and have them draw a tree. Oh, make a nest with little owl babies in there. I like it. Any other ideas for art related to the Owl Baby story? Oh, talking about the texture of the tree bark and leaves and limbs and also the feathers. So bringing those materials related to that, a paper puppet making activity to act out the book. Okay. So bring in art and dramatic play. Nature, textures, materials. I see some science thrown in there. I love it for a collage. Bringing the art and science together. These are great ideas. Alicia, I want to go to these classrooms tomorrow.
Me too. Someone said making masks that they can use in the dramatic play area. That's a cool idea too.
Oh, yeah. Painting words with finger paint on the table, drawing family portraits of your own family. So making that family connection. Great. Sounding out the whoop. Awesome. All right. Thank you for those activities. Those sound really exciting. Thanks, everybody. All right. So you can see here the example that we had was similar to some of the things that you all came up with, creating owl habitats using feathers, twigs, and other art materials. And that activity could even be something that you create and then you add it to the dramatic play area, kind of making those connections. There's science involved there. Oh, I see there is a hand up. Miss King, did you have your hand up? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know. I never lowered my hand.
Oh, okay. All right. No worries.
Nathan, I have a question.
Sure.
What about if I have dual language learners in my classroom?
Say it again.
What if I have dual language learners in my classroom?
Oh, that's a great question. Do you all have any ideas for dual language learners? If you have someone who speaks a language at home other than English, how can we make that connection with a book? How can we plan around that? Okay, many books.
In Spanish.
I'm sorry, come again?
You can try to say some words in Spanish.
Okay, so learn the words.
Right.
Some of those vocabulary words.
And incorporate that, maybe even have those posted in the classroom, the English and Spanish with the pictures. So like nocturnal, for example, having a picture to go with it, having the word nocturnal and then the Spanish or another language, if they speak another language.
Mm-hmm.
Picture cards with target vocabulary in both English and Spanish. Often teaching lessons with vocabulary, English, Spanish, and ASL. Great.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And even having props and pictures in general is really helpful to make that connection between the actual, like an owl, for example, or some of the words that are used here, some of the vocabulary words, like having a picture of someone doing something brave and having that word, and then for the teachers having it in that first language is really helpful. Could put a small group of children and do another read of the story in the child's first language to help make that connection, or introduce it in the first language. Thank you, Maggie. Yeah, props and visual supports are powerful. They are. They're really helpful for all the children. Yeah. All right. Thank you all. These are such great ideas. All right. We'll move on to the next slide.
Yes. So I'm glad that we spent some time learning a little bit about START today. Definitely this information, along with a plethora of other resources, are available in our Cox Campus Resource Library. So for example, the bubble maps and extension activities, those are great when you're thinking about planning out your lesson plans or really thinking about how you want to plan how to use that book in multiple times of the day throughout the week. And so on Cox Campus, we have some different examples of already filled out extension activities. And the beauty of it is it breaks down the START strategy. So you'll see what you're supposed to state where you can teach. It'll give information around think alouds and different words that you'll point, act, and tell. It'll have questions that you can ask at the end of those reads, and then different extension activities that you can tie in. Also, there are some blank bubble map templates as well. So if there is a book on Cox Campus that might not be in your classroom library, feel free to use that as an example and fill out your own bubble map extension activity template. Also, there are book guides, which I just talked about, video resources. So similar to some of the videos we watched today, there's some other videos that kind of break down what START really looks like and how you can do different things within the day, like introducing the book and introducing centers based off of the theme of the book. Also, there's some Rollins Rhyme collections, which has some great tune-ins that you might use before you read the book. And then also thinking about progress monitoring, because we definitely want to make sure that those children are really capturing what we're talking about and not just listening to the book, but they're actually learning from it. And so we have our START checklist, which you can use in a small group and really ask them again that why question and see how the children respond to that individually. Also, we have some safety nets that you can use as well, just thinking about if a child is unable to respond to the why question, there's some safety nets on there that kind of walk you through what you might say in response to their response. So all of these can be found on Cox Campus in the resource library. Okay, so let's reflect. And this is our opportunity to hear from you. We want to know one thing that you're going to take away from this and you're going to try in your own classroom. So what is your next steps? You've already, listened to the START read and you know what START kind of encompasses. And I want you to think about what is something that you're going to take back to your own class. Veronica, are you trying to share? Oh, okay. So Ms. Cox said, ask more open-ended questions. Absolutely. Love that. ID the keywords in the book. Yes, very important to highlight those keywords in the book prior to doing those reads. Absolutely. Anyone else going to take maybe some of those extension activities? Transform their classrooms? I was reminded of the lesson plans and resources you already have available. I would like to incorporate more of those into my plans. Yes, please feel free. There's, again, lots of activities on Cox Campus for you to use.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, like I said, I teach online.
Mm-hmm.
So can most of this stuff be, I guess, implemented online too?
Absolutely, absolutely. Of course, in the stage of COVID, a lot of teachers have had to use virtual supports to teach and read to their children. And so all of the same practices can be definitely used online as well. And so the same thing will kind of apply. You'll still have your book shown. You might hold your book up to the camera, but you would still use that same START strategy. So breaking down the different parts of the book. And then when you're asking that why question, allowing the children to come off of mute if they're on mute, or allowing, if the parent is there during the call, allowing them to turn the screen on, put the screen off of mute for the child to respond. Those are some great ways to do that. Also thinking about extension activities, this is a great way to embed families into that practice as well. Families as partners is one of our ecosystem elements. And so think about ways that you can tie those extension activities into things they can do at home with the parent. So you might not directly be able to visually see each child doing the extension activity, but that might be something that you encourage the families to do. And then they can take pictures and share their ideas of how they were able to extend the book. And so those are some things they can bring back to class. So yes, definitely something that can still be used in a virtual setting. Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The chat is full of great stuff. So using safety nets, start checklists, and vocabulary throughout the day. Being a coach, I will encourage teachers to spend more time using Cox Campus resources. Yes, they're free. Please use them. I will be sharing these resources with other public librarians in our county so we can implement some of these ideas during library story times. Love it. Love it. Yes, absolutely. So thank you all so much for your great ideas. Again, there's some great visuals around START. I will send this information to site directors to share and encourage parents during parent meetings. Yes, bring this information up on Cox Campus. There's actually a modified version. It's called the READ strategy that families can do at home if they want to take some of these same practices and use this concept at home. And so definitely this is something that families can definitely, do at home as well. And again, like I explained to Ms. King, definitely even thinking about how you can extend the book past the classroom, past the daytime, and what are some things they can do maybe in the afternoon or at home, or some conversations they can even have in the car around some of those books. Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, and there's great information for dual language learners as well. So if you have families that speak another language outside of English, there are some great resources in the parent area, the family area around reading to their children at home as well. Okay, I think we can go to the next slide. Okay, so on Cox Campus, again, you'll see a plethora of great information. One of the things that you will see is around our literacy and justice for all. It's definitely a great thing that we have going with Marietta City Schools. And so on there, you'll learn all about putting the science of reading into action. And so definitely log on to Cox Campus and see what the journey looks like in Marietta City Schools. You can visit www.coxcampus.org/LJFA, so Literacy and Justice for All. Okay, so now don't miss our upcoming sessions. If y'all love this session, and I think it was pretty good. What do you think, Nathan?
Oh, yes, I think it was excellent.
Great. So if you enjoyed today's session, definitely don't miss our upcoming sessions. We have one around supporting dual language learners right from the start. And so I know a lot of people were chiming in when we talked about dual language learners. So that will be a great session to tune into to learn more about how to support dual language learners in the classroom. Also, coaching too, relationships at the heart of coaching. So that's great for any coaches, literacy coaches, curriculum specialists, consistent rituals, routines, and transitions. And so definitely learning how to embed some great information into those rituals, routines, and transitions.
All right, I think you guys all did great. This was excellent. I really appreciate your input here and a lot of great stuff in the chat. So we want to know how we did. So you'll be able to answer. A poll should pop up that says, how did we do? And there's 4 simple questions in there, and we really can use your feedback on planning ahead. So thank you so much. We do have, stay tuned for the next slide, because as Laura mentioned in the chat, there's a $500 gift card giveaway. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. Definitely fill out the poll. Let us know the answer to these questions. Thank you all so much. And yes, I want to second what she said here in the chat. Please share. Please put the word out. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We can go on to the next slide. All right, so we want to hear from you. Your voice is so critical to us. We're excited to continue to grow and build and improve Cox Campus. we're currently working with a market research firm so we can better understand the courses, the resources, the tools that our members are interested in, that you all are interested in. And we'd like to see, and the things that you would like to see on Cox Campus. So we would absolutely love for you to participate in this 10-minute survey. So in the next business day, our team will follow up via email to all of you who attended today with a link to a 10-minute survey as well as a recording of today's session so you can share with others. We hope that you participate as we truly value your feedback. And also, right in time for the holiday break, by completing the survey, you'll be automatically entered into our $500 Amazon gift card giveaway. So that's pretty exciting.
It is. I need to enter.
All right. All right. Well, I just want to thank you all so much. Just remember to check out our upcoming webinars. We have the Supporting Dual Language Learners right from the start on November 3rd at 3 p.m. So put that in your calendar. And you can always go on your Cox campus and go to events at the top and click on event calendars. And it gives you all the upcoming events. And it's just an easy click away to join like you did today. Thank you all so much. I really appreciated your time today.